Discover 7 amazing secrets to conquer anxiety, an incredible transformative journey facing fear. The diner was dimly lit, grease-stained menus sprawled across each table like the entangled thoughts in Sarah's mind. She wiped down the counter, her movements robotic, anchored by exhaustion. The flickering neon lights outside cast fleeting shadows, a reminder of her endless uphill battle. "What's wrong with me?" she thought, glancing over at Lily, who sat alone in a booth, scrolling through her phone. The disappointment in her daughter's eyes was palpable, a piercing reminder of a connection slipping away. "I'm here, but am I really present? Can she even see me?" Her heart sank as she recalled the relentlessness of balancing multiple jobs, mornings at the grocery store, nights at the diner. The pressure was crushing, a tide of anxiety washing over her that left no room for dreams. She could barely catch her breath, each day blending into the next like a blur of monotonous struggle. As she stood at the counter, she could almost feel the weight of her worry bearing down on her, erasing the person she once was. Just then, she noticed a colorful flyer tucked under a condiment bottle. Discover 7 amazing secrets to conquer anxiety, an incredible transformative journey facing fear. The headline screamed with promise, yet fear clawed at her throat. What if it's too late for me? The self-doubt twisted like a knife. Could she really confront the anxiety that stole her joy? The thought buzzed in her head like a pesky fly, relentless and irritating. Before she could fully process her decision, a familiar voice broke through her daze. "Mom, can we talk?" It was Lily, her brows knitted in concern. A wave of guilt hit Sarah hard. "I'm not a good enough mom," she thought. A bitter knot twisted in her stomach, mixing dread with desperation. Here was her daughter, wanting to connect, and all Sarah felt was the sting of inadequacy. "Can't you see how hard it is? Just let me be," she thought, but instead smiled. "Of course, honey." Even as she said the words, doubt lingered. What if she failed again? Before they could launch into conversation, Sarah felt pulled back to the flyer. Stepping away, she checked her phone and saw yet another notification. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Lily's voice was softer now. "Mom, are you okay?" "It'll be fine," she reassured her, fighting her urge to slip back into anxieties. But as she grasped the flyer, the exhilaration of possibility collided with the fear of failure, tightening her chest further. What if she found the courage to face her fears, only to uncover deeper scars? Later that night, while sorting through old family documents, uncertainty morphed into anguish. The revelation of her mother's past, a successful entrepreneur brought to her knees by harsh realities, sent her spiraling. Did I inherit that failure? Is that my fate too? She shuddered, the pull between honoring that legacy and carving her own path paralyzing. Staring at the wall, she felt trapped in a psychological whirlwind. Behind every decision loomed the relentless echo of her mother's sacrifice. As a new wave of anxiety gripped her, she looked at Lily, the tears threatening to spill with the weight of realization. What if I don't just fail for myself, but for her too? The thought left her breathless, standing on the brink of an unpredictable future, where everything hung in the balance. The restlessness of the night enveloped Sarah as she lay in bed, the remnants of anxiety swirling around her like a storm. Each tick of the clock felt like a hammer striking against the anvil of her mind. I need to find a way out, she thought, a flicker of determination contrasting the surging waves of despair. Trusting her instincts had rarely led to peace. Now, however, she was desperate enough to try. The flickering glow of the diner's neon sign seeped into her thoughts, igniting an idea. The flyer, those 7 secrets, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. She imagined the words leaping from the paper, offering strategies to hand her life back, to reshape the narrative that had anchored her to disappointment. Laying there, she wrestled with herself. What do I have to lose? Roused by her internal debate, Sarah decided there was no point in delaying any longer. Early the next morning, she found herself seated at the corner booth of the diner, her laptop open in front of her. The hum of early customers blended with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, an environment both familiar and steeped in potential. As the cursor blinked on the screen, she took a deep breath. The flyer had outlined a series of approaches to manage anxiety: breathing techniques, journaling, and confronting negative thoughts. Inspired, she began outlining her plan of attack. Journaling had always seemed like a foreign concept, but how else could she sift through the tangled mess of her thoughts? Just right, she instructed herself, pushing back the doubt that crept in. Page after page transformed from blank to vibrant echoing of her struggles, recording moments of vulnerability and flashes of resilience. Each entry illuminated her hidden strengths. Healing from her mother's legacy didn't mean erasing it, it meant recognizing it and choosing a different path. The realization stung but also ignited a sense of empowerment she hadn't felt in years. This is my story too, she whispered, as her hand moved with newfound determination across the page. Days turned into weeks, and slowly her world began to shift. She immersed herself in those 7 secrets, bravely confronting each pervasive thought that whispered untruths about her capabilities. Gradually, it became easier to face her anxieties. Breathing exercises helped during the engulfing moments of panic. She learned to pause, inhale deeply, and release negative thoughts like settling dust. In the quiet moments after her shifts at the diner, she would often find Lily curled up on the sofa, engrossed in her latest obsession, a stack of books piled in the corner. Rather than feeling the weight of failure in those moments, Sarah felt a surge of warmth. Lily was discovering her own passions, her own path. What would it look like if they both learned to embrace their journeys together? One late afternoon, Sarah took the bold step of inviting Lily to join her in a journaling session. "Let us share our stories," she suggested tentatively. The fear of how her daughter would react was palpable, yet she pressed forward. "Coming together might help us both." Lily looked up from her book, brows raised in surprise, but curiosity sparked within her. "Okay, Mom. I'm in," she replied cautiously, and just like that, a new door opened. As they began sharing, laughter mixed with honesty. Each story told was a revelation, each moment a step closer to mending their bond. Little did Sarah realize that as she unwrapped her fears, she was giving her daughter a map of courage, a way to confront her own anxieties. With each passing day, Sarah could feel her confidence building. A quiet resolve began to cement itself within her. But lurking in the shadows was an unsettling thought: she hadn't faced the biggest battle yet. The prospect of addressing her employer about her overwhelming schedule loomed, a confrontation she had avoided for far too long. A new wave of anxiety coursed through her. What if they refused to understand? Her mind whispered, but she countered it with the strength she had been nurturing. If I don't advocate for myself, who will? The moment had come to face a different kind of fear, one that would lay the foundation for her future. And it weighed heavily on her heart as she prepared to step into that office, both anxious and relieved. This is a new beginning, she thought, steeling herself. In the quiet corners of her mind, Sarah felt alive, on the precipice of transformation. Decisions awaited her, each a fork in the road. She could feel it: the moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the possibility of genuine freedom. Stepping into the office felt like entering a battleground. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the hum of printers and faint chatter from colleagues blended into a cacophony that jolted her senses. Sarah's heart raced as she passed the reception desk, each step deliberate yet filled with uncertainty. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind. Now reality demanded action. She reached her manager's office, pausing just outside the door. What if this goes wrong? The thought flickered, but she extinguished it with a firm shake of her mind. I deserve to be heard. Gathering her resolve, she knocked lightly, the sound echoing in her ears like a drum roll. Come in, her manager called, the voice laced with an authoritative calm that both reassured and unnerved her. As she stepped inside, Sarah cast her gaze around the room, absorbing the familiar artifacts of workplace hierarchy, the sleek desk, charts on the walls, and a large window that overlooked the bustling city below. In that moment, the entire space felt like a metaphor for the challenges she faced, each success and obstacle layered like the cityscape. "Hey Sarah, what can I do for you?" Her manager leaned back in the chair, professionalism etched across his expression. "I'd like to talk about my workload," she began, forcing her voice to maintain steadiness despite the tremors of fear coursing through her. "I've been feeling overwhelmed, and I think we need to reassess my responsibilities." The words felt like shards of ice slipping out of her mouth. She held her breath, awaiting the inevitable pushback she had envisioned during sleepless nights. Instead, her manager's eyebrows furrowed slightly, conveying intrigue rather than dismissal. "Okay, go on," he encouraged, tapping a pen against a notepad. As she spoke, clarity replaced her initial panic. She outlined specific examples of projects that felt too demanding, how the pressures were shaping not only her performance but her well-being. This was not just about the workload, it was about reclaiming her autonomy, reshaping her narrative. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" He pondered aloud after she finished, genuine concern settling in the creases of his brow. "We can definitely look into delegating some tasks." Sarah's heart surged with both relief and disbelief. Was it really that simple? After years of battling her own invisibility, the acknowledgement felt like a balm. "Thank you," she replied, her voice softer now, a conversation emerging rather than a confrontation. "If there's anything else on your mind, you know my door is always open," he added, a warm smile breaking through the previous tension. Leaving the office, Sarah felt as if an invisible weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She walked back to her space, her mind racing with possibility. It wasn't just the outcome of the meeting that exhilarated her, it was the realization that she had fought for herself. The journey to self-advocacy had begun. As Sarah settled into her desk, a new revelation struck her: if she could speak up about her workload, what else was possible? Lily's exploration of her own passions flashed in her mind. Perhaps it was time for her to engage in a different conversation with her daughter, one about boundaries and aspirations, a conversation that would encourage Lily to articulate her dreams and challenges as well, but a nagging question lingered beneath her newfound resolve. Would she be able to guide Lily as bravely as she had started to embark on her own path? Would her daughter find the same strength to confront her fears? Driven by a fresh surge of ambition, she opened her laptop and began drafting an email to arrange a mother-daughter meeting, a session not just for journaling but for sharing hopes and dreams. As she clicked send, a chill ran through her. The journey ahead promised challenges, but the stakes were high. They were about to step into uncharted territory together, and uncertainty lay ahead. Among the rising excitement and anticipation, a twinge of anxiety reminded her that true discovery often hides beyond comfort zones. Would the conversation bring them closer, or would it uncover fears buried deep? The quest for empowerment was just beginning, and every moment could unfurl new layers of vulnerability. She took a deep breath, ready to dive into the unknown. The pivotal moment approached, one that would test not just her limits but her relationship with Lily. And as she watched the screen flicker, she felt the pulse of possibility surge around her. The day wore on, but Sarah found it challenging to focus on her tasks. The thoughts whirled in her head like fallen leaves caught in a gust. Her conversation earlier had stirred a mix of relief and anticipation that made the mundane office work feel trivial. She was propelled by a conviction she hadn't fully acknowledged before. The prospect of her upcoming discussion with Lily loomed larger than any final report due that afternoon. With each tick of the clock, she felt a blend of excitement and trepidation. How could she help Lily articulate her dreams without inadvertently stifling them? Memories of her own struggles echoed in her mind. How, in her youth, she had constantly second-guessed herself, burying aspirations beneath self-doubt. In that moment of reckoning with her own past, she made a silent vow to approach the conversation with Lily differently. She decided to take a break and recalibrate her thoughts. Grabbing her phone, she found a nearby cafe to recharge her spirit. The cozy interior was a stark contrast to the sterile office environment, and the rich aroma of coffee wrapped around her, offering a semblance of comfort. As she sipped her drink, ideas began to flow. How could she structure their talk? She envisioned cycles of sharing, where she'd reveal her own doubts alongside inviting Lily to express hers, creating a safe space brimming with authenticity. However, a voice of doubt trudged back in, whispering, "What if you falter?" This nagging hesitation pricked at her determination. The fear of inadequacy crept in. Could she truly be the mentor Lily needed? Pushing the doubt down, she turned her attention to the outlines of her plan, sketching bullet points on a napkin. Start with vulnerability, one line read. Lead by example. There it was, a small yet profound reminder that personal growth often begins by exposing fragments of ourselves, by drawing strength from our own vulnerabilities. Each decision looped her back toward her own courage, which had ignited that earlier meeting with her manager. At that moment, she realized she wasn't just plotting a conversation but cultivating a garden of connection. She envisioned each dialogue as a seed, potentially blossoming into resilience for both herself and Lily. The possibilities were there, bursting at the seams of her imagination. As her confidence grew, the cynicism began to fade. This wasn't just about how to speak to her daughter, but about redefining her own maternal role. If she could embrace her own past while empowering Lily, perhaps they could uncover paths together that neither had anticipated. Returning to the office, Sarah felt lighter. She harnessed a sense of purpose that refocused her resolve. No longer was the workday a mere grind. Each interaction was now suffused with meaning. She made a mental note to check in with her colleagues more, share more openly, and encourage brainstorming sessions. Her workplace, like her home, needed a balance of vulnerability and empowerment. As the day drew towards its end, she found herself glancing at her phone, waiting for Lily's response to her invitation. Each ping of a text made her heart flutter, each silence felt extended and burdensome. When finally, the notification bells chimed, the weight of uncertainty clashed with a rush of courage. "Can't wait, Mom. What do you want to talk about?" An overwhelming wave of warmth cascaded over her. Perhaps this was the moment where everything shifted, a potent moment of choice, brimming with potential. She closed her eyes, knowing the time had come to fuse her strengths and fears into a foundation for the conversation. As she crafted a thoughtful response, excitement surged within her. But the tighter the anticipation gripped her, the steeper the challenge loomed. Would they navigate the choppy waters of vulnerability without losing sight of their destination to empower each other? With renewed vigor, she typed, "Let us explore together." And with that, she hit send, sealing her decision to embark on this journey into the unknown, a venture as daunting as it was exhilarating. The path was uncertain, but she sensed a new chapter unfolding, seeded by the courage to confront not just her fears but also those of her daughter. Yet even as confidence bubbled within her, she couldn't shake a gnawing question. If this meeting revealed more than she anticipated, were they truly prepared for what lay ahead? The anticipation that filled Sarah felt almost tangible, but as she prepared to meet Lily, a wave of self-doubt crashed over her again. She paced her small apartment, the walls echoing her thoughts. What exactly would she say? How could she lead when she felt so unsteady? Shifting her focus, she recalled the countless hours spent during her childhood trying to fit into molds carved by expectation and fear. Her spirit, once vibrant, had dulled over time. Each conversation about potential careers, or dreams, felt like walking a tightrope. Would approaching Lily with the same vulnerability push her daughter to find her own footing, or would it send her spiraling into uncertainties of her own? Taking a deep breath, Sarah decided to revisit her outline. She pulled out the crumpled napkin she'd written on, its lines barely legible, each ink mark a reminder of her intentions. She grimaced at the sight of her evasion from true authenticity. The plan she'd crafted was essential, but genuine connection demanded more than a structured conversation. It required a rawness she felt hesitant to expose. Fear tightened in her chest. Was she prepared, not just to talk, but to listen, to truly hear Lily's feelings, the very things that once terrified her to voice? Could the discussion reveal cracks in their relationship, or might it illuminate the way forward together? these thoughts spiraled as she heard Lily's light knock at the door. This was it. Was she ready? With a spine steeled for confrontation yet softened by affection, she opened the door to find her daughter's eager smile. Seeing Lily sparked a warmth that instantly bridged the gap created by Sarah's swirling inner chaos. "Hey, Mom. I'm really looking forward to this," Lily said, her enthusiasm piercing through Sarah's apprehensions. "Me too," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. They settled onto the couch, the familiar fabric grounding them. Sarah took a moment, collecting her thoughts, gauging the atmosphere. Lily shifted with visible anticipation, her energy contagious. There was a shared responsibility in the air, an implicit understanding that they were both choosing to navigate uncharted waters. "Why don't we start with what's been on your mind?" Sarah encouraged, consciously opening the door to a conversation that demanded courage from them both. Lily glanced sideways, her expression shifting. "Well, I've been thinking about college a lot lately. I want to explore different paths, but there's so much pressure I don't know if I can live up to everyone's expectations." The confession tumbled out like a long-held breath being released. In that moment, Sarah recognized the girl poised before her, wrestling with fears she too had once battled. It was a startling reflection, their vulnerabilities mirrored, threatening to collapse the walls they had built around their individual struggles. "Expectations can be heavy," Sarah said softly, the words flowing from a place of understanding. "I've lived through that too. I'd love to hear your thoughts more. What paths are calling to you?" As Lily began to articulate her hopes, Sarah felt a shift within her. She was no longer the hesitant mentor, she had transformed into a partner in exploration. Each point Lily made resonated with the echoes of Sarah's past, her heart swelling with pride and empathy. They were weaving a shared narrative, one of dreams and fears and everything in between, yet amidst the blossoming dialogue, a tension simmered, a realization that if they kept delving deeper into their truths, they might unearth more than they bargained for. Would the surfacing of deeper fears shatter their fragile confidence, or would it bind them tighter in understanding? Just as Sarah contemplated the latter, Lily paused mid-sentence, her expression clouding. "Mom, what if I told you I sometimes feel completely lost, like I'm not good enough?" Alarm jolted through Sarah. They had traversed from gentle inquiry into vulnerable territory. This was the risk she had not fully anticipated. Fear gripped her heart, not just for herself but for her daughter. "Lily, can I be honest with you?" Sarah said, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath. "Sometimes, I feel lost too. It's okay to admit that." In acknowledging her own sense of inadequacy, Sarah found a thread of courage, yet the stakes had risen. Navigating through this raw honesty could shatter illusions, opening doors to realities that felt insurmountable. As they remained suspended in this newfound honesty and connection, a tremor of unresolved tension pulsed through the room. Were they ready to explore the depths of their fears and doubts together, or would they flinch back from the abyss? The path ahead, though promising, had little assurance of safety, and as Sarah stared into her daughter's eyes, she understood that this meeting was only the beginning. The deeper revelations lay just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The silence hung thick, an invisible weight drawing them closer yet inviting the possibility of retreat. Sarah felt her heart race uncontrollably, an internal alarm ringing as she braced to navigate this shared vulnerability. The dialogue they had initiated was no longer about career aspirations, it had transformed into a candid exchange of insecurities that could reshape their relationship. Lily's downcast eyes told a story of both shame and pleading. Sarah leaned in, desperate to ensure her daughter knew this was a safe space for honesty. "You're not alone, Lily. Many of us struggle with feelings of inadequacy. You've got to understand that even as adults, we often battle those invisible demons." Lily's brow furrowed as she grappled with Sarah's words. "Really? But you seem so confident. You always know what to say." Confidence, now there was a concept that pricked at Sarah's insecurities. Internally, she questioned how apparent her own layers of doubt might be to Lily. Perception versus reality. She had spent years cultivating a facade, walking a delicate line between motherly strength and personal fragility. That's the illusion I've constructed, Sarah admitted, her voice steadier now. I've put up a front, but beneath that, I do feel lost. It's a process that we all go through. In her heart, Sarah recognized this moment as pivotal. It was an opportunity to dispense with bravado and offer a glimmer of authenticity to her daughter. Each word was infused with a vulnerability that felt unfamiliar yet exhilarating. Lily squared her shoulders, a flicker of defiance lighting up her eyes. But what if I don't want to be lost? What if I want to find my way? That question hung between them, challenging the very foundation of input Sarah had offered all these years. How long had she dwelled in the comfort of being lost? Did she even know what it meant to be guided, much less provide guidance? Then let us explore that together, Sarah replied, her tone shifting to reflect a newfound determination. How do we begin to map your path forward? What do you think will help you? Lily thought for a moment, uncertainty crossing her features. Maybe if I could talk to someone who has been through it like you. The request prodded at the edges of Sarah's psyche. Here was an invitation not only to lead but to step into her own experience. She had the chance to transform their dialogue into a shared journey towards self-discovery. For so long, Sarah had played the passive role in her life. This was the moment to assert herself as an architect of possibilities. Meeting with someone who can mentor you could be a fantastic first step, Sarah mused, her internal gears grinding with possibility. I could help connect you with a counselor at your school who specializes in guiding students through their apprehensions. As those words poured out, clarity began to dawn. Perhaps this was the very action Sarah needed, the approach of their invisible boundary being challenged and dismantled, one brick at a time. The thought of reaching out for help wasn't just a lifeline for Lily but also a significant step for herself. What if we both seek counsel? It might be helpful for us. The idea slipped out, buoyed by an unusually candid surge of courage. Lily's eyes widened, hope crackling in the air. Mom, do you really think that would help? Us doing this together? Yes, I do. We're kind of in this together, aren't we? The prospect both thrilled and terrified her, but Sarah yearned for a shift, a genuine evolution. This moment marked a departure from simply being a support system to becoming a shared seeker of insight. The stakes were high, but those stakes mirrored the depth of love she had for Lily, a love that pushed her to confront her fears head-on, yet in the heavy shadows of possibility loomed an unsettling thought. If they embarked on this journey of seeking help, what other undiscovered truths lay on the other side? Were they truly prepared to dismantle more layers than those they had just peeled back? As Sarah mulled over the implications, she sensed a startled vulnerability quaking within her. Embracing the unknown felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering at the brink of a transformative plunge. Would they gather the collective strength to delve deeper, or would fear anchor them? Only time would reveal the answer, and with her daughter's hopeful gaze entwined in her thoughts, Sarah silently resolved to take this leap. The moment of truth beckoned. Perilous yet ripe with promise. Was she finally ready to wade into the depths of discovery, or would the tide of secrecy pull them under? The room felt charged with a palpable energy, one that pulsed between Sarah and Lily as they contemplated their next step. The idea of seeking help together was more than a simple act, it represented a potential paradigm shift in their lives. Sarah could sense that her daughter was about to embark on a journey not only of self-discovery but also a shared exploration of their inner worlds. Yet the momentousness of the decision weighed heavily on her chest. With each passing minute, doubts crept in, wrapping around her resolve like an invasive vine. What if this process exposed more than they were prepared to face? What if, in discovering hidden truths, they unearthed fractures in their relationship? The fear of the unknown had an insidious way of binding her to the comfortable, albeit flawed, dynamic they had navigated for years. Mom, Lily broke through her spiraling thoughts. What if I fail at this? What if I uncover something I don't want to face? The question dug into Sarah like a sharp blade, one that reflected not only Lily's fears but her own. That's a possibility we can't ignore, Sarah acknowledged, her tone measured and sincere. But what if we find strength in it? We could discover tools that help both of us navigate these feelings. Strength is often born from struggle. Lily nodded slowly, yet Sarah could see the hesitance lingering in her expression. How could she convey to her daughter that discomfort was not the enemy? She'd been wallowing in avoidance long enough. Now was the time to push beyond the boundaries of their shared insecurities. "Let us set up a meeting together," Sarah proposed, the words tumbling out more in an attempt to convince herself than Lily. "I think we should go as soon as possible. We can make this a starting point, and if it feels wrong, we can reassess." Unsure currents surfaced in Lily's eyes, a mix of hope and trepidation swirling together. "What if I express something deep that you don't understand or can't handle?" The question cast a long shadow over the conversation, prompting Sarah to consider the very real potential for miscommunication. "You know, I may not always have the right response. But I'm here to listen, to try." "That's a promise," she replied, striving for clarity. "We're both stepping into the unknown, and that's okay." As they planned to contact the school counselor, a new layer of responsibility settled over Sarah that felt both exhilarating and intimidating. The groundwork for change lay before them, an empty canvas waiting for their strokes of paint. Would they render a masterpiece of vulnerability, or would the colors run together in chaos? In every moment leading up to their first session, Sarah told herself to breathe, to remind herself that uncertainty was not synonymous with failure. Each solution she crafted, each piece of information she gathered about counseling, fed the small flame of resolve within her. This opportunity for growth was as much for her as it was for Lily. But what exactly was she hoping to achieve? Secretly, Sarah yearned to shatter the invisible barriers that had held her captive all these years. As they exchanged ideas about what they wanted to voice during the appointment, shadows of past mistakes flickered in her mind, muffled arguments, missed occasions. Would this be a vector for healing, or a mere excise of old wounds? "Mom, do you think I can talk about school? About everything that's been troubling me?" Lily pressed even as excitement danced in her eyes. "Absolutely," Sarah affirmed, feeling the trace of determination kindle within her. "We'll tackle it all, together." Deep in this momentum, she realized the facade she had so carefully curated was beginning to crack, not in a disastrous way but in a way that offered authenticity. As they shifted their focus to logistics, Sarah caught a glimpse of the horizon, beckoning them forward into a landscape rich with possibilities. A voice inside her reminded her again the unknown could foster their personal growth, if they were brave enough to embrace it, yet, as they prepared to reach out to professionals, an unsettling thought intruded upon her enthusiasm. What if their journey unearthed long-buried conflicts, igniting struggles that neither had anticipated? And as they drafted the message that would set everything in motion, Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The moment was theirs to shape. Would they clasp the opportunity that lay before them, or would they falter at the edge of their fears? The click of the send button echoed loudly in Sarah's mind, reverberating like a pulse marking a new chapter in their lives. She sat there, staring at the blank screen for a moment longer, her heart racing with both excitement and concern. The decision had been made, they were committed. But the consequences of their choice began to loom in her thoughts, transforming the exhilaration into a complex blend of adrenaline and anxiety. Lily looked up from her own device, her eyes mirroring the uncertainty that clouded Sarah's mind. What if we really don't like it? What if it feels awkward? Her question, laced with youthful vulnerability, struck a chord within Sarah. She recognized the same fears that had held her back for years, the reluctance to confront difficult emotions and vulnerabilities. Unwilling to succumb to those fears, Sarah leaned forward, her voice steady. "If it does feel awkward, that's okay. Growth rarely comes without discomfort. Remember, we are in this together. If we stumble, we will help each other find our footing." The determination in Sarah's voice seemed to lift the weight from the air, if only momentarily. It was then that Sarah realized her role had shifted from caretaker to an equal participant in growth. As they awaited a response from the counselor, it struck her that this journey was bound to take them to places they had both avoided. Days stretched into a week. The waiting felt interminable, yet in that quiet space, Sarah immersed herself in reflection. She began journaling her thoughts, small moments, whispers of embarrassment, rage suppressed over the years, and tales of sorrow tucked away. Writing became her therapy, a way to prepare her psyche for the shifting tides ahead. That I in one of her entries, she wrote, "How did I become so afraid of saying what I feel? What if the person I'm meant to be is trapped under layers of fear and shame?" Frustration fueled her writing. Deep down, she recognized that the vital work was not just about guiding Lily, it was about confronting her fears, reclaiming her voice, and fostering authenticity in her own life. As their appointment loomed closer, Sarah took small, practical steps to nurture her courage. She practiced communicating more openly with Lily. Tiny conversations about mundane subjects slowly evolved into heartfelt discussions about what truly mattered. They explored personal stories, laying bare their fears, and forging a new connection. The walls seemed to crumble, revealing a stark, beautiful vulnerability, but not all moments were filled with clarity. The closer they came to the first session, the more Sarah found herself grappling with the weight of responsibility. She had built her entire adult life on projections of strength, never admitting how much she struggled beneath the surface. This newfound commitment was a beckoning, encouraging her to dismantle the intricate facade she had so carefully curated. But the thought of shedding this armor filled her with trepidation. On the day of their session, Sarah stood in front of a mirror, rehearsing deep breaths while trying to calm her racing heartbeat. Today marked not just a meeting with a counselor, it marked the beginning of a deeper journey toward unmasking her true self. Yet the consequences of this exposure were daunting. As Sarah prepared for the session, visualizing the counselor's warm demeanor, a flicker of hope intertwined with anxiety gripped her. What if the counselor could unlock something transformative within them? What if they stumbled upon a revelation that would bind mother and daughter closer than ever before? Simultaneously, another uneasy thought slithered in. What if they opened a Pandora's box, revealing familial struggles that would fracture the trust they had just begun to build? As they both took their seats in the counseling office, Sarah felt a surge of resolve. The moment of truth was upon them. The doorway leading into this new era of exploration awaited, but instead of fear, Sarah hoped for discovery, strength, and courage. And as she exchanged a glance with Lily, Sarah sensed that the real journey was about to begin, where hidden truths lay in wait, threatening to emerge into the light. Would they embrace the awakening together, or shrink from the emerging shadows? The counselor welcomed them into the session with an inviting smile, her voice gentle but firm. "It's wonderful to see the two of you together. This is a safe space for exploration." As she spoke, Sarah felt a mix of comfort and apprehension wash over her. The room encapsulated her conflicting emotions, adorned with soft colors and cushioned seats that seemed to offer solace, yet the air buzzed with unspoken tensions. "Just breathe," Sarah told herself, squeezing Lily's hand as they settled into their seats. It was the first step into vulnerability for both of them, a leap into the unknown, and Sarah's heart fluttered with a cocktail of hope and trepidation. The counselor's guidance began with open-ended questions designed to draw out their narratives. "Tell me about a time when you felt disconnected from each other." Sarah felt a chill course through her. This was the moment where the layers would begin to peel away. Lily hesitated, her gaze drifting toward her lap. "I guess I often feel like I'm not really heard," she murmured, her voice barely rising above a whisper. Sarah's chest tightened. Lily's honesty laid bare shards of her own inadequacies as a mother. All she could think was, what if I failed her? Before Sarah could respond, the counselor gently nudged her. "And how does that make you feel, Sarah?" Swallowing hard, Sarah recognized this as a pivotal moment. It's hard," she managed, her voice shaking. "I want to be there for you, but I don't always know how. I never want you to feel neglected." The truth of her admission tumbled forth, illuminating years of bottled-up fear and doubt. Sweat trickled down her spine as she felt exposed yet strangely liberated. The act of confessing created a crack in her facade, one she wasn't sure how to manage. "We're just starting to explore these feelings," the counselor interjected, her tone soothing. "It's okay to feel vulnerable. It's actually a courageous step towards deeper connection." The realization that they were not alone in their struggles eased some tension. Perhaps this collective vulnerability was a bridge Lily's discomfort mirrored her own. Taking a breath, Sarah challenged herself, pushing deeper into the experience. "Is there something you want to know from me, Lily?" Sarah asked, the question surprising even herself. The willingness to confront what lay between them ignited something in her, a flicker of courage. Lily glanced up, her eyes shimmering with contemplation. "Why didn't you ever talk about your feelings before?" The blunt inquiry caught Sarah off guard, but she admired her daughter's bravery. "Because I thought it was my job to be strong and self-sufficient. I didn't want to burden you with my worries." She paused, cringing internally at the admission. "But I realize now that being strong isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest." As the conversation unfurled, revealing layers of past misunderstandings and unvoiced anxieties, Sarah discovered newfound clarity in her emotions. This wasn't solely an unraveling of Lily's perspectives, it was also about reconciling her own fear of inadequacy. Each insight was a step toward reclaiming her voice, a voice she had muffled out of a misguided sense of responsibility, yet, as cathartic as the session felt, a nagging thought lingered. Would her newfound openness inspire accountability in Lily, or would it create rifts neither could foresee? The prospect of deeper connection cradled immense risk. With every word exchanged, Sarah felt the dense weight of fear beginning to lift, replaced by an enticing resolve. She envisioned a future where vulnerability nourished rather than strangled their bond. For the first time, she entertained the idea that facing their fears together could not only unite them but could forge a path to unearthing their true selves. As they wrapped up the session, the atmosphere brimmed with a fragile optimism. But as Sarah glanced at Lily, she sensed that they had barely scraped the surface of their emotional landscape. The road ahead would undoubtedly be riddled with complexities, demanding authenticity from both of them. Leaving the counseling office, each step felt heavier with uncertainty. They had made progress, yes, but the challenges that loomed were undeniably daunting. All Sarah could think was, together, they had taken a monumental step, but the journey was far from over. What awaited them next? Would they be ready to confront the deeper shadows lurking in the recesses of their hearts, or would old fears rise to the surface, threatening to disrupt the tentative trust they had begun to rebuild? In the weeks that followed their transformative counseling sessions, Sarah felt a profound shift within herself and her relationship with Lily. What had begun as a collective venture to articulate struggles at the counseling office had ignited an urge for ongoing authenticity, one that seeped into their daily lives. They established a ritual of open dialogue during their evening dinners and would often reflect on small moments that used to be overshadowed by unspoken fears. Sarah learned to share her thoughts, detailing the challenges she faced at work and the emotional baggage she had carried for years. With every admission, she felt the invisible bond of connection strengthening, transforming the air between them from one of trepidation to mutual understanding. She found that vulnerability did not diminish her role as a mother, rather, it deepened their relationship, revealing that it was okay to not have all the answers. Lily began to take her own steps toward confronting her challenges. After some discussions about the pressure she felt regarding the expectations of college, she started investigating extracurricular activities that piqued her interest, proudly unveiling her selected path of journalism to Sarah one evening. "I want to tell stories, Mom. They matter," she declared, confidence evident in her voice. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. Here was her daughter, breaking free from the chains of anxiety that had previously held her hostage. Meanwhile, Sarah's workplace environment had undergone its changes, too. With the newfound assertiveness gained from advocating for her workload, she initiated brainstorming meetings where colleagues openly shared their thoughts and struggles in a supportive atmosphere. Her manager acknowledged her efforts, noting the collaborative spirit she had cultivated. "You've shown leadership, Sarah," he mentioned during one of their discussions. The recognition felt not just gratifying, but an affirmation of the journey she had embarked upon. As she continued these practices, Sarah honed her ability to pause and breathe during overwhelming moments, something she had long yearned to master. Breathing techniques became a lifeline, a reminder of her personal evolution. The anxiety that had once consumed her was becoming a nuanced part of her narrative, not the entirety of it. One evening, while they were curled up on the couch together, Sarah proposed a new idea. "Let us explore a family project. What do you think about starting a blog to share our journeys?" she asked, excitement dancing in her eyes. Lily's face lit up at the idea, recognizing this as an opportunity for genuine expression. They could articulate their growth and obstacles, weaving their stories together as testament to all they had conquered. As weeks turned into months, the blog gained traction. As they penned their thoughts, their shared experiences transformed into something larger than themselves, a narrative bursting with resilience and personal growth. Comments began trickling in from readers resonating with their stories, recanting their shared battles with anxiety, familial expectations, and the importance of vulnerability. They were no longer alone in their struggles. A community began to form, stitching together a fabric of stories united by emotional discovery. On a celebratory evening, as they reviewed the blog's burgeoning success, Sarah turned to Lily. "You realize we've created something powerful, don't you?" she said, pride radiating from her as she watched her daughter soak in the mutual triumph. "Yeah, we've turned our fears into strength," Lily replied, her voice steady with conviction. "And it feels incredible." In that moment, Sarah's heart brimmed with fulfillment. It was no longer about reconciling the shadows of her past, but about how they had stepped into the light together. Every story they authored marked a triumph over fear, paving the way for growth and connection. Sarah recognized that her initial battle against anxiety had transformed into a journey of empowerment. She had come to understand that there was power in vulnerability and growth in shared dreams. She had successfully navigated her fears and inspired Lily to forge her unique path, and as they celebrated their achievements, Sarah felt the solid confidence that came from genuine personal accomplishment. No longer was she solely defined by her past. She had proved to herself that she could not only survive but thrive, drawing from her experiences to create a future that was bright and expansive. This transformative journey had not only allowed Sarah to reclaim her life and build a more substantial relationship with Lily, but had also positioned her as a source of inspiration for others, as they united in their shared stories of overcoming adversity. Now, as they prepared to share their next blog post, the screen flickered with new thoughts, urging them forward. It was a reminder that the journey was not complete, but merely transitioning into another chapter, one that they would bravely face together. Sarah's next step crystallized in her mind. She recognized that achieving her own freedom meant solidifying the legacy she hoped to cultivate, one not of mere survival, but of resilience carved from shared love. This was the moment. Sarah felt grateful for every struggle, every story, and every breath that had led her here, realizing she could be both a mother and an individual, no longer tethered to the past but soaring toward an empowered future. Now, immerse yourself in the journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because your support makes all the difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.